Hello guys, in this video we're going to change a timing belt on this Ford Ecoboost 1 liter. It is in a Ford Fiesta 2015 model and there is only 30,000 on the clock. Some may say it is too early, however the service interval, if I'm correct, it is either 10 years or 100,000 miles. However, I believe Ford has changed that and reduced it to, I think, 50,000 miles, because I would say the owners, they're not changing the oil quite regularly and the belt can degrade, and whatever comes off of the belt, the parts of the belt, they will clog the strainer just as on the 2.2 Mazdas. So, and it will lead to oil pressure. So now I'm going to raise the car and then start disassembling the things. I have removed the exhaust and the heat shield. First you need to do the heat shield, but before the heat shield you need to undo the oxygen sensor. It's here. So this is a top oxygen sensor. I used a 22mm socket, oxygen sensor socket for it, and it was easy to undo. Also, if you can, disconnect the cabling for both sensor, the top and for the bottom one as well, but I left in the bottom one. So once that is out of the equation, you can go ahead and remove the heat shield. It is held by a couple bolts, 10 and 8mm bolts, believe, 3 from the top, 1, 2, 3 and 2 on the bottom. These two is easier to access if you not remove or just push aside the AC compressor. I'll show you that in a bit. Once that is out, you can pull this upwards and you can go ahead or carry on with the exhaust itself. It has 4 studs and nuts. In my case, then the studs came out with the nuts. You use 13mm socket on them. Also, you can heat them with induction heater. It's a lot easier. And another one last bolt is here, and you need to undo also these 2 bolts for the shield which is connected or on the exhaust itself. And let's have a look at the AC compressor, which is just pushed aside. It is held by 3 10mm long bolts. One goes here, another one goes above the red cable, and the last one, the third one, goes in here. Be careful because they tend to break in or break or pull the thread. Not the easiest. However, in my case it was easy to remove them. Here they are, the long ones for the AC and these one for the exhaust. I'm going to put these ones back so I don't forget where they came from, don't lose them, and pretty much that's it. Now I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil and remove the sump to see the strainer finally. The sump has been removed, and now let's have a look at the strainer. It is clean, just like brand new. So maybe not all of the wet belts are created equally. I don't think so. So if you take care of it, they will last. If the maintenance is done properly on time, as you can see, the belt is fine as well. Nothing is missing from it either. Doesn't matter, even though the car is 10 years old. It has not a lot of miles, that's true, only 30,000. But we've seen that on other channels that these one can go as early as, let's say, 40,000 miles, and they look a lot worse than this one. So we believe if you keep up with the maintenance, shouldn't be any problems. Obviously, just change the belt when it's due, so every 10 years, or I think that is now 50,000 miles, but depending on how often you change the oil, it can be a bit later. Also, I'm going to remove the AC, the compressor, so I have better access here to the things. I'm going to drain the AC first. We have removed the valve cover. As you can see, guys, it's bunch of 10mm bolts around the perimeter of the valve cover. Obviously, before you get there, you need to remove or disconnect the connectors, various air pipes, air ductings, and we remove the coolant reservoir as well. First, we drain coolant from it. We remove the AC, as mentioned before, and the alternator, and now we are thinking how to remove the water pump. So we either remove this whole plastic piping with the water pump, as it has 2 bolts here, one on the top and another one on the bottom, but we don't want to break this one, so we may just remove this clip and then pull out the water pipe going into the water junction and remove the water pump with the timing cover. Next step now is the timing cover, then we can set the timing and replace it. Also injector. So first I had to remove or undo the fuel pipe coming to the fuel rail, remove the fuel rail with the injectors, and then I had access to the valve cover bolts. To be honest, it is not that bad. It is definitely time consuming, but I quite like this engine. It's quite small and you have lots of room to work around the engine. So as I said, next step, timing cover, timing, replace the timing components and put everything back together. Timing is set and the crank bolt is unlocked or unbolted. However, we didn't do it the usual way. So let me show you. Here are the tools. So this is the tool to lock the flywheel, but we didn't use this one because you need to remove the starter in order to fit that, which locks the flywheel from that side and a tiny bit above. However, what we've done is we used a piece of wood between the conrod and the engine block, and further a bent valve or something which we can lock the flywheel to the top of the bottom of the engine block. So Dan's done that, and I was pulling with a 21mm socket on the bolt and undone it, but we didn't remove the crank pulley till. So then we removed the tools and turn or set the first piston to TDC. How you do it? You have two special tools for it. The first one is there, that stud, it threads in. There is a bolt, a 10mm bolt, you undo it and then it threads it in, and as you can see the crankshaft flow is supported by that stud. And the next one, once that is there, the next stud goes through the crank pulley to the timing cover. Now we can remove the crank bolt and start disassembling the thing. Obviously you need to lock the bottom of the engine, so the camshafts. This one, the shorter tool, goes onto the exhaust side and the longer goes on the intake side. Once you lock them, I will show that as well, then you finally can start disassembling the timing cover further, replace the bits, and assembly is obviously everything in a reversal order. The timing cover is off. It wasn't too difficult. Basically what you need to do, unbolt or undo the couple 8 and 10mm bolts around the perimeter of the timing cover. We removed the water pump with the timing cover. We undone these two bolts, so one is up top and the other one is below. We undone that and disconnected from here. What you can also do is disconnect with this plastic junction together. You just pull the clip and then you can disconnect it either here, these two water hoses, or further up, wherever you prefer. This one is already disconnected. I think you just need to unclip it from here. Anyways, now we need to do the timing. What we're gonna do, we're gonna put two marks here, one on the sprocket and the old belt, and another one on the sprocket and the old belt, and we're going to measure the length with the teeth on the belt, and we're going to do the same mark on the new belt. And we're going to do that because as we want to make sure we put the belt on as it was. We're not worried further down because the tensioner will take out any slack from both sides, because that pulley or sprocket is a freewheel, so it's not locked in position without any key, so it can spin freely on the crankshaft. I will show you that later. The same goes for the oil pump and the sprocket on the crank as well. So yeah, Dan is going to mark it and we'll show you once the new one is fitted. So guys, this was what I was talking about. So this is a freewheel sprocket or free running sprocket. As you can see, it is turning on the crank freely. So basically it is not locked in a position, and that's why some people can mess the timing of this engine up, because they don't lock the flywheel. So it can twist or turn, and they don't know in what position that was, as this is turning freely on the crank. That's why it's dangerous. So now we removed obviously the big timing belt. We're going to remove the oil pump timing belt and then fit it back together, time it up, and basically do everything in the reverse order. This is that tiny filter I was talking about. So it came from that hole. Yeah, from that hole. Basically take it out, clean it with brake cleaner, and then you can fit it back. I think, if I'm correct, this is a filter for the turbo feed. So it's quite important that it is free flowing of oil, otherwise it can mess up the turbo. Well, the timing is on. I mean, the belt, as you can see, the markings match. So how I've done it, the bottom one was fairly easy. It's very straightforward. I took out the sprocket, put on the belt, and then put on the sprocket again with the belt now, and I was turning it and it catched the teeth on the bottom sprocket and just slid on. That was very easy. The big one, the long belt, I've done it. So I had the new belt in my hand and just fitted the sprocket in the belt. And first things I've done, the two markings, I made sure that they align, and then with the sprocket in the belt, I just slid it onto the crankshaft. Beforehand, I temp fitted the tensioner, so basically tightened the bolt, but just hand tight, and I still had that pin. I didn't remove it, so I fitted the tensioner, then slid the belt over it. Once I was happy how everything looked, pull out the pin and tightened the bolt to 26 Newton meters. Now it is fine. It just needs the timing cover to be put on and the rest of the bits, but I'll show you or tell you at least how to do the crank pulley or crank bolt, because for that you will need a special tool. The timing cover is already back on, the pulley is back on, and the new bolt is back on. I didn't tighten it to the torque specs yet because I want to make sure the timing is correct. So I made a mark here and on the engine block as well. I turned the engine over 4 times and the marks came back the same position. Also, same goes for the flywheel. And as you can see, not now, sorry, that tool is in, and I need to insert the pin to the crank pulley. Once that is done, I make sure that the crank pulley is in time. As you can see, now I need to lower the car and fit these two tools on the camshaft, check the timing. If everything is correct, I can torque down the main crank bolt. I'll show you how to do that, because you may need, or it is better if you have a special tool for it to torque that bolt down. Also, I wanted to show you guys how you can check the camshafts if they are in TDC. So not the camshaft, but the piston is at TDC. Basically, the camshafts, both camshafts have QR codes, and they should be pointing upwards if the first piston is at TDC, top dead center. Also, another thing you can check if the cam lobes, the first cam lobes, are pointing towards each other. That's how you know you are at TDC, but obviously make sure with the proper timing tool that you are in time and nothing can happen. Also, you can do a mark and check with that, but we are going to check it with the tool. Once we are done with that and we're happy, we can carry on assembling car back together and then start it up. Now I'm at the stage when I'm torquing down the crank bolt, and as you can see, here is a weird tool. This is a specific tool. It is called torque multiplier and a 5-to-1 torque multiplier. So basically the torque applied here, let's say if you apply 100 Newton meters to this end, it will torque down the other end with 500 Newton meters. So 5 times the other end of the input. Basically, it is needed as the torque specs for the crank bolts is following 70 Newton meters, then 5 times 90 degrees, and do that 90 degrees. You either need to be very strong or we need a very long arm. So yeah, this tool helps to reduce the amount of force you need or effort you need to get it done. Here is that support bracket. As you can see, it bolts to the block of the engine. You need to remove the drive shaft carrier. It's held by 3 bolts. You remove that and then fit the support bracket, connect the torque multiplier, and you can torque it down. I already done the 70 Newton meters. Now I'm going to do the 5 stages of 90 degrees, and finally I can fit everything back. The car is finally assembled back together. Everything is done. We're just waiting for the oil pan seal to cure, so we're going to fill it up with oil tomorrow, also with coolant. I'm going to fill up the AC or recharge the AC, and then tomorrow it will be started, so leave enough time for the sealant to cure. Everything should be fine, and then finally we can return the car back to the owner. It was not that bad of a job. I quite enjoyed it. It was something new. However, I had a lot of things to remove in order to get to the timing chain, the timing belt itself. So that is the more time consuming job, but the timing belt replacement is fairly easy. So I'm ending this video here. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon in the very next video. Take care and bye bye.